Hi everyone, my name is Kyle Monahan and I'm the Teaching Fellow for S171, Water, Health, and Sustainable Development. I'm actually here to talk to you today about Tutorial 2. So before we went through Tutorial 1, today we'll be going through Tutorial 2. And so what we'll talk about here today will be how to access Tutorial 2 and how to get started working with it. So this is the home page. You'll always arrive at that syllabus page, and you'll be able to download the syllabus and our contact information here. You can see on our right we have the things to do and all of the deadlines laid out here for us. I've just allowed, I know in the last video we didn't have those assignments finalized, but I released them, all of the assignments today, so you can plan out your busy work life. We try to work with you as best we can and make this class work for you. So, to get started, we always want to click on Assignments to do our assignments. Under Assignments, we've already gone through Tutorial 1, so I'll skip that and click on Tutorial 2. I'll see here that the deadline, the points, and what you will submit, which is a file upload, is given for you. And I mentioned that this assignment consists of two parts, mapping sample data and mapping demography or demographics. Before you begin this assignment, you should read this entire assignment page. Make sure to know the extent to which you'll need to work on this. You also have the option to install QGIS, a open source and free to use GIS program. Instructions for this are provided in classes 5 and 6. I think it's actually a different class this year, but tutorial 2, how to install QGIS.zip, and I will show you where that is. You'll want to read through all the questions, read through all the assignment questions before. I would suggest you do this before you do anything else, so we'll do this here together today. This includes the data, tutorial2data.zip, and the original slides, tutorial2 intro.pbtx. If you haven't worked with a zip file, that is a compressed file format. You'll need to double click on it on a Mac. Is attempt to map the Flint data using QGIS, following along with the posted video. If you cannot map the data using QGIS, you can alternatively look at the map embedded here and the map linked in the assignment page. Everything you need to complete this assignment is contained within the assignment page. However, I suggest that you give it a shot to try to do this mapping. It's really fun and it's a great skill to have. So if we click on this video here, we will see that a window pops up with Aishwarya Venkat, a PhD student at Tufts University Friedman School of Nutrition, and she speaks about a GIS for Health Assessment, a Flint water study review, and I would suggest you look at this. So going back here, if I go back to my module, so if I click on courses, go back into our course, click on modules, I can then make it here. I see tutorial 1, which we've completed, so we can decrease that. And then we'll go down to tutorial 2, which is in classes 4 and 5. If I click on tutorial 2, how to install QGIS.zip, I can download this zip compressed file format, save that. I'll go back to modules, scroll down, and I just want to download all this data. I'm really into downloading data, so I want to download tutorial 2 data.zip as well. Might as well get the data. Right, now we have both of it. I'll click on this to show in folder to go to the working directory where this data has been stored. And as I mentioned before, on a Windows PC, you can right-click Extract All or double-click to extract all. On a Mac, you'll single-click or it will auto-do it for you depending on the guidance there. So there's a couple things that you can use. There's information on QGIS that I provided in case you want to work with that. And there's also links to learn QGIS, just some suggested tutorials and things like that. So if you want to download QGIS on a Windows or Mac, you can go to QGIS, just look up QGIS. Once you see this page, right now we are on 3.6.3 or 3.4.8 for the long-term release. And you can discover QGIS. You can look at all of the components that are involved in the great software. This is a free alternative to something like ArcMap. All right, so now we might want to click Download Now. There's a few options that we have. For Windows, we can download the OSGeo4W network installer, which I suggest. It is the one of the nicest ones. I'll be using the long-term release here today. For Mac OS X, if I click down there, if you're on a Mac, the version is a little bit less bleeding edge, if you will, but you can do this as long as you have Mac OS El Capitan or newer. If you don't know which one you have, you can click on the upper left-hand side of your Mac, go to on the Apple icon, go to About This Mac, and take a look at what operating system it says you have. It might say something like Yosemite, El Capitan, or High Sierra. All of those three will be okay to use for this. So, and once you've downloaded it, it will thank you for downloading. So you can click on this Mac OS installer and it will download that for you. If you happen to be on Linux, BSD, or Android, you can contact me for details on installing this. But I assume if you're on those, you probably know something about installing applications. All right. So let's say we've got our data here. I'm going to open up QGIS. And I'll be using QGIS 3, as I mentioned before, the long-term release. And I'm just going to extract, right-click, and extract all my tutorial data here. And in here we see Flint data. It has demographic data, data on the Flint River, sampling data, and other things. So I'm going to create a new project. You might wonder, why am I creating a new project? And the reason why is because I like to stay organized. It's always hard to find where I am in life. It's even harder to find my files. So if I go into my desktop here, I want to navigate to where I have stored the files. For me, that's my desktop, which is C, users, my full name, which I probably shouldn't put on YouTube, although I probably will, which is probably disappointing. The InfoSec people are screaming at me now. On my desktop, and then HES tutorial 2. You might wonder, Kyle, your username is actually your full name, which is true, and I regret that. But anyway, so I'm in my desktop. I'm in Harvard Extension School tutorial 2, and I'm in the tutorial 2 data. So your path may be different. Again, you're going to want to familiarize yourself with what it's like to have a working directory, a place where a program is looking for files. You want to think about where you're saving your files. It's a very important thing. So I see that automatically it has identified these as shape files, which is what they are. I can click and drag it down to layers. It is interested in the coordinate system. Luckily, it chooses the correct one, which is okay. I'll continue dragging these down. And I can see that the Flint River here, let's see if this comes in correctly. Symbology. Simple line. We want it nice and thick, and maybe we wanted a nice blue. So I click on the color icon. I click OK. I click Apply. I click OK. All right, and so now we have sampling data and demographic data here. The first thing we do, and I'll go into this assignment page. Let's go back to assignments and then to tutorial 2. I'm just going to share this just so you can make sure to see it. All right, and so here's sampling data. Let's make this a different color so we can start working with it. And we can see that there's certain information in here. If I go down to my, just move this a little bit. There we go. Move this over a little bit. See how I can move these around. All right. And so there's a couple of things that I can do here. I can click on symbology, and I can switch from a simple fill to something like a gradient fill. And I could choose based on what I want to actually show. I could also, and a gradient fill is just for design, but I might want to choose by categories. And so I can choose a column from this, and note that there are 3 draws, just like what we dealt with in the first bottle, second bottle, and third bottle. I can color by draw 1, click classify, and it will classify these values. Now I might want to do something like graduated. Click class, choose my column as I did before, draw one. Click classify, and I can see that it has split the draw one values, the parts per billion of lead values in each draw, into a categorical color ramp. Now let's say I don't like this color ramp. I really want it to move from a nice, maybe a nice blue into a nice blue color. I click OK, I click Apply, and now I can see that there's a gradient value assigned to each one. Now I also might not like that. I actually think that having a color ramp doesn't make too much sense. In this case, I think I might actually just want a discrete color or something like that. I can change that as well. And we can work on some of these things. Let's say I want to change to a single symbol, or I can change to a categorical or a graduated symbol. And so just by doing the same approach, I can switch my different classifications and things like that. So it looks different. And it's a really, really nice option to be able to do. So let me actually switch it to something that makes a little more sense. Choose my draw. Maybe I want to do draw one in this case. And then click classify. Click apply. Drag that up so that I can see it. Drag that. There we go. And now I can see the classification here. So I can see that there are some areas where there might be higher levels of lead than others. And I can compare that to where the Flint River would be. And so this is how I would start working with this and doing this. Now, let me make sure. The one thing I'm going to want to do is set this to the correct coordinate reference system. So how I did that was properties. Nope. Right click. Set CRS. Set layer CRS. Then I clicked on WGS 84. Projections are a huge component of working with geospatial data. We're not going to cover it in the course, but it's good to know about. So again, that is right-click, set CRS, set layer CRS, WGS 1984, WGS 984, and EPSG 4326. So now we have this data. Throughout the assignment, you will be going through the materials and making graphs like this. That will help you answer your questions. That will add a spatial component to your style of analysis for this water contamination issue, and it will allow you to make suggestions that you otherwise may not have been able to. Thank you very much for listening. Again, go through and read through this material. Try to make a map of your own, and try to suggest different things that you could do and what that means for the situation in Flint. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you all the best with your assignment. Thanks.